What's up everyone, Chris coming to you from Salty Island, and we're starting up round 2 of the Combat Patrol Narrative Battle Reports. We are on the Forge World of Imperia, and in the first round, the campaign opened with a win for the invaders with the Cult of Speed Orks defeating the Primaris Space Marines of the Sons of the Phoenix. In that game, the Orks activated ancient beacons, drawing forces from across the galaxy to Imperia and awakening the ancient Necrons sleeping within. Multiple Chaos factions have also come to see the ancient relics buried within the planet, and where there are secrets, there will be the Thousand Sons. Slipping onto the planet via hidden and corrupted webway gates, a small force have begun to set up a staging area to begin their attack. This Thousand Sons force hails from the Sect of the Red Echo, and they are a member of the Cult of Knowledge faction. Led by a new Infernal Master, he's chosen the Warlord trait Ardent Scholar and the relic the Warpweave Mantle. He also has the Infernal Pacts, which are similar to the prayers from the Space Marine chaplains, Fires of the Abyss and Malefic Maelstrom. Lastly, he's using the psychic power Tzeentch's Firestorm. Next, he's brought a 5-man unit of Rubric Marines, armed with 4 Warp Flamers, and the Sorcerer has a Plasma Pistol and the psychic power Glamour of Tzeentch. They are riding in a Rhino with the extra Combi Melta. In the fast attack slot, a 3-man unit of Tzaangor Enlightened, all with fatecaster bows. And lastly, they brought out the buff beastie himself, a Mutalith Vortex Beast. Unfortunately for the Thousand Sons, some sneaky git caught on to what they were doing, and now the Cult of Speed, the Red Suns, have come to do what they do best, and crash the party. Using the brand new 9th edition Ork Codex, they are led by the Deffkilla Wartrike, using the Warlord trait Faster Than Use from the Evil Sons clan, as well as the relic Rezmeka's Redder Paint, also exclusive to the Evil Sons clan. With him he has 10 Choppa Slugga boys, now toughness 5, and using the specialist upgrade Trukk Boys that lets them do all sorts of new tricks. Of course they'll be riding in a truck with the Wrecking Ball upgrade. With them, 10 Gretchen, along with the Runt Herd, ready to cause all sorts of problems. And lastly, the BoomDakka Snazzwaggon, with the custom job, the Souped Up Special. The mission for today's game is Cut Supply Lines from the Crusade mission pack Amidst the Ashes. This is an attacker-defender scenario, with the Thousand Sons being the defenders, and the Orks doing what they do best in attacking. Deployment is on the short table edges, with the Thousand Sons splitting their force into 2 equal parts. The first half can deploy further up, while the second must deploy along the back half of the table edge. There are also 2 objectives in the defenders' deployment zones that they must defend and control. On the attacker's side, they deploy on the opposite end, and their goal is to either control or destroy the objectives. Scoring works as follows. Starting with the second battle round, both the attackers score 10 victory points if they control 1 objective, and an additional 5 if they control both. The defenders score 5 victory points for controlling 1 objective, and an additional 10 if they hold both. Lastly, the attackers can perform an action at the end of their movement phase that completes at the start of the next command phase, where they destroy the objective they are on. If they do so, the attackers score 10 victory points, and it removes the objective from the game. Finally, at the end of the game, attackers score 30 additional points if both objective markers are destroyed, whereas the defenders will score 40 if neither marker has been destroyed. If only one has been destroyed, the defenders score 15. Today's table is packed with terrain from the new Octarius Kill Team box and 2 sets of the Ministorum crates. I hope you guys enjoy this, as the second round of battle reports is going to get intense with the new terrain we have prepared for all of you. You can see the Orcs staying in cover or out of line of sight from most of the Thousand Sons, but they have a massive movement advantage, so you know turn 1 charges are basically guaranteed, especially for a Speed Freaks force. On the Thousand Sons side, they have the newly buffed Vortex Beast up front and center to try and slow down the Orks, while the Infernal Master is actually deployed on the bottom floor of the building he's standing on, but we put him up top just so you can see where he is. In the roll-off, the Thousand Sons win the right to choose and they opt to take the first turn. Turn 1, the Thousand Sons generate their command point and everyone advances forward, with the Sorcerer moving up top of the barricade to where he is now. The Infernal Master's powers are all activated in the command phase, but because of the way we're filming this, we're going to show it after the movement phase. That said, all of his powers are also offensive attacks and fairly short range, so it won't be a factor this turn. In the Psychic phase, the Infernal Master casts the Cult of Knowledge specific power, Empiric Trespass, against the Snazzwaggon. This will let all wound rolls of 1 be re-rolled for a turn. This goes off with a double 6 and threatens the peril of the warp. Luckily, the new stratagem, Masters of the Immaterium for 1 command point, ignores perils. The Orks have no way to stop psychic powers, so this might become a bit of a problem as the game goes on. In the shooting phase, the Vortex Beast is at full health and gets to use 2 powers. First, using Turbulent Discharge against the Wartrike, he deals D3 mortal wounds, getting a big 3 wounds to start the mortal wound train going. One hint to this game is the insane number of mortal wounds the Thousand Sons can put out, even with such a small force. The Vortex Beast then attempts Immaterial Flare, but it fails to deal any damage. Next, the Tzaangors with the fatecaster bows. They now hit on unmodified rolls of 2+ at 30 inches, and any 6s will auto wound. 3 shots against the buggy, gets 2 hits, and 1 wound. And yes, we forgot our own psychic power, even though we put the card right next to it. The Snazzwaggon fails its save though, even with the cover bonus, and takes a wound. And with no charges and no assaults, the Thousand Sons have established a defensive line to defend their resources and prepare to receive the Orks' charge. On the Orks' turn, they generate a command point giving them 4, and using their insane speed advance up the table. One of those new orky tricks I mentioned earlier is the Trukk Boyz, in which they have the ability to disembark from the truck even if the truck has moved this phase. From what I've found, rules is written, when a unit disembarks, it's allowed to move, shoot, and charge. I wouldn't be surprised if this gets FAQ'd after the book is released, but for now, that's how this works, and so you see the entire Ork army right up in the Thousand Sons' faces. In the shooting phase, the Trike opens up with its Kutta Melta gun and boomstick, but misses all of its shots against the Vortex Beast. Do forgive us here, we're going to be removing this one building. I won't really play any part further in the battle report, and we're going to need some space to roll some Ork shooting. The Snazzwaggon fires all its shots into the Tzaangor Enlightened. 16 shots from the mech Speshul. Gets 3 hits, and 1 wound. 1 save puts a wound on the first Enlightened. Next up, the big shooter. 5 shots for being in Dakka range, 2 hits, and 2 wounds. The Enlightened fail their saves and the first one goes down and puts a wound on the next. The pistol shot is shrugged off and we move on to the Boyz. They have 10 pistols going into the Enlightened, with 3 hits and 2 wounds. 2 failed saves kills the second and brings the last down to 1 wound. Lastly, the Truck's big shooter, also in Dakka range, gets 5 shots, 2 hits, and 2 wounds, and failed saves wipe the unit, giving the momentum to the Orks. In the charge phase, the Orks spend 2 command points for ramming speed. This lets an Ork vehicle roll 3d6 for the charge, but more importantly also deals d3 mortal wounds on a 2+. The Wartrike makes it in and successfully puts 2 mortal wounds on the Vortex Beast. The Deffkilla Wartrike makes 5 attacks with the Snagga-Claw, getting 4 hits, and then 4 wounds using its free rerolling wounds ability. The Vortex Beast then fails 3 saves, taking 6 wounds total, literally bringing it down to almost half its starting wounds in 1 goal. The Vortex Beast attacks back. Because of the amazing new Ramshackle rule, and the fact that the Trike is a vehicle, the Vortex Beast opts for many small attacks rather than a few big ones. Using its tentacled maw, it makes 15 attacks against the Trike, getting 10 hits and 5 wounds. The boss makes 2 saves, taking 3 more wounds himself. And at the end of turn 1, the Orks have landed a huge first blow and now control the bottom half of the table. In turn 2, the Thousand Sons go back up to 4 command points, but the Infernal Master fails to activate its Infernal Pact. In the movement phase, the Vortex Beast breaks from combat with the boss to support the bottom objective, while the Rubric Marines disembark behind cover, letting the Rhino also go reclaim their supplies. The Infernal Master starts up the Psychic phase with Firestorm of Tzeentch, targeting the Snazzwaggon. It successfully casts thanks to Thousand Sons getting +1 to all casting rolls. This spell throws 9 dice, with each roll of a 6 dealing a mortal wound. And the Thousand Sons get a blessed roll by Tzeentch, dealing 5 mortal wounds against the Snazzwaggon. Next, the Aspiring Sorcerer casts Glamour of Tzeentch on the Vortex Beast, giving it a little extra protection against the Ork Horde it's facing. In the shooting phase, a quick FAQ check from the 8th edition confirmed that the Vortex Beast powers don't count as a shooting or a melee attack, and as such, it's allowed to use it even after falling back. So until it's FAQ'd in the 9th, that's how we'll be playing it. It uses Maelstrom of Madness, which deals a mortal wound on a 2+ to each unit within 9 inches, and succeeds against the Snazzwaggon, the Trukk, and the Boyz. Next, the Rubric unit uses 2 command point stratagem, Wrath of the Wronged, which gives +1 to wound in the current phase. Firing 4 Warp Flamers into the Wartrike, it gets 15 hits, dealing 8 wounds, and not nearly enough saves slays the Deffkilla Wartrike, swinging the momentum back in favor to the Thousand Sons. Lastly, the Rhino fires off some shots into the Snazzwaggon but deals no wounds. And with that done, and no charges, it is the Orks' turn to fight back. The BoomDakka Snazzwaggon loops around to deal with the Rubric Marines, while the Boyz move on to the objective with the Grots not far behind. In typical Ork feast or famine, the Boyz and the Trukk shoot into the Vortex Beast, and the Grots and the Runt Herd fire into the Rhino. But all of that shooting results in only 1 wound being put onto the Vortex Beast by the Trukk. The Rubric Marines spend 1 command point for Unwavering Phalanx, which reduces the damage characteristic of all weapons shooting at it by 1 to a minimum of 1. And because of this, the Snazzwaggon's Mech Speshul now is a 1 damage weapon, which gives the Rubrics back their +1 to save, in addition to the light cover. After all the shooting from the Snazzwaggon, the Rubrics only take 1 wound. The Orks are clearly displeased with this, and the Trukk charges into the Vortex Beast, with the Boyz charging into the Vortex Beast and the Rhino. The Boyz swing into the Vortex Beast, and in 9th edition, they've learned some new tricks, with each boy getting 2 attacks and Choppas giving 1 additional attack. The Boyz get a total of 10 hits that deal 3 wounds, and only 1 save chips away a little more at the Vortex Beast. The Knob himself gets 3 attacks from the Big Choppa, dealing 2 hits and 2 wounds, and 2 failed saves finally slays the hideous beast, who does not explode. The Rhino makes its attacks back, running over 2 Orks and killing them. And at the end of turn 2, the Orks score 10 points for the Boyz holding the bottom objective, and the Thousand Sons score 5 for the Rubrics holding the upper objective, both thanks to objective secured. The Thousand Sons begin to move, with the Rhino breaking from combat, and the Rubrics advancing to the fallen bottom objective, while the Infernal Master comes off his perch to join the fight. So again, due to the way we're filming this, the Infernal Pacts are normally done in the command phase, but we'll be showing them here, and the Infernal Master rolls a 1, and then tired of failing these rolls, he spends a command point, only to roll another 1. I don't know how many times we've stated on camera you should never use this stratagem, yet we continue to do so. When will we learn? In the psychic phase, the Infernal Master casts a smite on the Snazzwaggon. Thanks to his warlord trait, he re-rolls 1s on psychic tests, as well as getting +1 to cast, giving him the big 11, letting him deal d6 wounds, which kills the BoomDakka Snazzwaggon with no explosion. Spending the last command point for Great Sorcerer, the Infernal Master casts a second spell, Tzaangor's Firestorm. Ardent Scholar helps again with the reroll for a successful cast. Another blessed roll brings 5 successes, dealing 5 mortal wounds to the Trukk. Lastly, the Aspiring Sorcerer casts a smite for the second time, with the +1 to cast assisting to make a successful cast and dealing 2 more mortal wounds to the Trukk. On to the shooting phase. 4 Warp Flamers into the Boyz and 1 overcharged plasma pistol into the Trukk, hoping to finish it off. 17 Warp Flamer hits, but Toughness 5 Orks really helps out this time, and only 4 wounds are dealt, but no saves allowed mean 4 dead Orks. On the overcharged plasma pistol, the Aspiring Sorcerer gets a 1, and with no command points left, blasts himself in the face, killing himself off. And at the end of Thousand Sons turn 3, the Ork Boyz fail a leadership check, but luckily only 1 Boyz runs away. The Orks push back in turn 3 as the Grots and the Runt Herd move on to the objective, while the Trukk looks to engage with the Rhino. At the end of the movement phase, both the Grots and the Runt Herd begin the action to destroy the objective. If they can't have it, no one will. The Boyz in the Trukk open fire into the Rubric Marines, though all of their shots are ineffective. Charging in has been all that's been effective so far, and the Trukk spends 2 command points for ramming speed into the Rhino, successfully dealing 3 mortal wounds. The Knob's Big Choppa lands 2 hits and 2 wounds against the Rhino, who fails its save, taking 4 more wounds. The Rhino and the Trukk push against each other, but are otherwise ineffective. And with the end of turn 3, the Rubric Marines still hold the upper objective, but the Boyz hold strong on the lower objective, making the score Orks 20, Thousand Sons 10. In turn 4, the Thousand Sons are noticeably outnumbered and outgunned, but they still have many tricks up their armored sleeves. Starting with the Infernal Master, he casts Tzaangor's Firestorm, targeting the Trukk. Scores a 12 on the cast, letting him deal mortal wounds on a 5+ this time, which is lucky as this time only 2 successes, but that's enough to destroy the Trukk without causing it to explode. Next, the Warp Flamers open fire into the Grots, getting 17 hits and 14 wounds, and with that the Thousand Sons erase the Grots from the battlefield, left to a fate that's better left unspoken of. The Rhino fires its infernal combi bolters into the Orks attacking it, managing to kill 1, but leaving the Knob behind. Looking to end the fight, the Rubric Marines charge into the Runt Herd. Rubrics now have 2 attacks each, and they deal 5 hits and 2 wounds. The Runt Herd fails its saves, but is not quite out of it just yet. Next, it's the Knob's turn to swing into the Rhino, hitting and dealing the final blow. And just as Tzaangor planned, the Rhino explodes in green warp fire, instantly vaporizing the last Ork boy, the Runt Herd, as well as 2 of the Rubric Marines. And with the end of turn 4, the Thousand Sons are finally in control of their supply objectives, scoring the full 15 points. And at the end of the game, they have successfully fended off the Orks, but at a great cost to their strength, with the final score being Orks 20, Thousand Sons 65. The Orks have been slowed, as they need to push the wreckage back to the mech shop to fix their vehicles, and while the Thousand Sons have suffered losses, their supply lines are intact. And with their mission a success, more Rubric Marines step forth from the warp to join the fight in Warzone Imperia. Thanks everyone for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, think about subscribing to the channel. Hit that like button to let us know that you enjoyed this video, and we will see you next time. Peace out, everyone.